We're going to talk now about the right-wing media propaganda cycle. This is not dissimilar to money laundering in a sense, where the money starts dirty and ends up clean. Maybe not a perfect analogy, but let's think through the cycle. How does the right force nonsense and imaginary issues into what we might call the mainstream of the political media discussion? The first step is get some coverage of your crazy idea or claim somewhere, even if it is not reporting it as if it's true, but reporting that you said it. Either way is good, and it starts the propaganda cycle. So it might start, for example, in a small local news outlet of some kind. Maybe you'll have a local reporter tweeting about it. And often it will come from some kind of small-time news agency, often understaffed. They don't have the resources to fact check every story. They've got tight deadlines and pressure from editors, so they've got to pump stuff out. So if you can plant a rumor on one of those platforms, you're already well on your way to starting this cycle of right-wing propaganda. And this could be, there are cat litter boxes in the bathrooms at some schools for the students who identify as cats. That's one possibility. Get something written about it somewhere. Get tweets from reporters, even if it's just, it is being claimed that this is going on. The second step is you take those tweets or local news articles or whatever the case may be, and you then use social media to amplify it based on those initial bits of reporting. You use that to generate more attention about it. Because as we know, there are so many people on Twitter that if they see Marjorie Taylor Greene or whoever retweet something that says they've got cat litter boxes in schools for students who identify as cats, 95% of the people who see it and retweet it won't check what is the original source. I always tell you, critically analyze primary sources to try to understand what you're being fed. You can use that initial thing to then amplify it on social media, and then it'll take on a life of its own. Social media becomes a great breeding ground for amplifying rumor and conspiracy theory. Even better, if you know how to use bots and trolls, you can get the rumors to spread like wildfire, and before you know it, they've gone viral on Twitter, on Reddit, wherever the case may be. Step 3 is you want to upgrade the credibility of the propaganda through an outlet like maybe an OAN or a Newsmax, with the goal of eventually getting it onto Fox News, where the likes of Tucker Carlson can bring it up, not yet reporting on it, but asking questions, right? And this is a classic propaganda technique. Starts with some local news story based on conjecture, amplified on social media by Republicans. And then Tucker says, listen, we need to be allowed to ask questions about cat litter boxes in school bathrooms. The American people have a right to know about cat litter boxes in bathrooms. And the left doesn't want to talk about it. Well, maybe the left doesn't want to talk about it because there's no evidence. That's the third step in the cycle. We need to be allowed to talk about this. And if you can argue that someone is trying to stop you from talking about it, even better. Then you get to the fourth step, which is sort of what we saw yesterday in the hearing from which we saw clips earlier in the show with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Politicians need to start demanding answers, and maybe they'll hold a hearing. And instead of actually asking questions, they just rant and rant and rant. And it's all because the public has a right to know. And this is where these propaganda stories can really gain momentum. Once politicians get involved in a formal way, the rumor is now a story, even if it was always based on nothing and the media can't ignore it. In this case, it's about, Mayorkas lied and all these different things. The last step is you cement the rumor for an election cycle by just sort of keeping it going long enough. And that's when it becomes fact in the minds of many people. The longer you can keep it in the news cycle, the more that a large portion of the electorate will believe that it is true. It starts to be referred to as truth, and then it can last an entire election cycle or longer. There are so many causes of this propaganda cycle. But Marjorie Taylor Greene has added this new layer, which is you just yell the conspiracy theories at a witness to whom you're supposed to be asking questions. That is now the epitome of this. So what should we do? What can we do? The most important thing is to understand the cycle. And remember, If everybody understood, critically analyze primary sources before you retweet, before you fall for it, before you start talking about it as if it's truth. If everybody understood that, if we were vigilant, if we actually tried to understand where we are getting these claims from, we would be able to short circuit these propaganda cycles getting going in the first place. Of course, due to a lack of media literacy, hyperpartisanship, and lack of education and so much ignorance that we see, it's very hard to short circuit it. But this is the anatomy of that cycle, and Marjorie Taylor Greene sort of knows how to take advantage of it, that's for sure. We'll have all of the clips I played today on our Instagram, which you can find at David Pakman Show, and of course on our YouTube channel. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/The David Pakman Show.